Oi, Brian! Yeah. How many Spider-Men is it possible to have in a single game? Right. I want 9 new Spider-Men by the end of the week. I want Spider Patriot, Spider Hawk, Gold Spider-Man. Is that possible? Spider-Man 12. Yeah? You're the man. Off you go. Oh, yeah. Brian, one more thing. Fuck Enchantress. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, another spider person has joined Marvel Contest of Champions, and it is Spider-Woman. So today, we are going to be taking the 3-star version out for a spin in 5.1.6 against that Archangel boss. And, of course, as per usual, after Kabam released their statement saying Battlegrounds is not their priority, they immediately released yet another champion who will be relevant both offensively and defensively for Battlegrounds. So, Spider-Woman, how does she work? Well, the rotation is just punch the opponent, preferably starting your combos while the opponent is not stunned, and you build to your SP2, and then once you chuck off your SP2, you place a Retribution passive on the opponent. And what this does is it increases the damage dealt to the opponent from all sources. And that includes the power stings that you place on your SP1. You can see Retribution placed there. Right, and the reason you start your combos while the opponent is not stunned, because every 5 hits in your combo meter, you gain a Fury buff, should I say. And if you start your combo while the opponent is not stunned, then your critical hits count as 2 hits towards that counter, so you gain your Furies and your attack rating increases a little bit faster, which is pretty nice. Now, I did say Fury buffs, yes, so she gains buffs instead of passives or just straight up having some sort of buff immunity. Now, some people said that that was brave, giving active buffs to a 2025 science character, and to those people I say, yeah, you're right, it is quite brave. But there are several things built into her kit that make this safe. So first things first, she's immune to Neutralize, which makes her a great counter to Rintra, but we'll get more into her countering abilities later on. And in her Awakened ability, every single time one of these Fury buffs expires or is nullified for whatever reason, it has a chance to be replaced with a passive which is identical. So that's very nice. So you can see whenever I gain one of these buffs, I'm placing a Debilitate debuff on the opponent up to a max of 6. So if you don't already know, those Debilitates count as negative spells towards Enchantress's abilities. So she is built to be a hard counter to Enchantress, and from my, first impressions of her, I think she's going to be doing a lot better job than Joaquin Torres does. Certainly a lot faster, a lot more snappy. So here up against Unstoppable Colossus, if she hits an unstoppable opponent or misses the opponent, then she gains an Evade buff, which then goes on cooldown. Again, nice little hint towards Enchantress. And yeah, so her kit is built to obviously decimate Enchantress, but her Neutralize immunity also makes her very strong against Rintra, and her Poison immunity makes her very handy against Man-Thing. All you need to deal with in that matchup is the armor break he places instead of the poison whenever he nullifies one of his pustules, and that's basically free willpower to an awful lot of players. But what about Mystic Dispersion, I hear you say? Well, whenever one of her Fury buffs expires, she places a Wither debuff on the opponent, which obviously curbs the effectiveness of Mystic Dispersion, and if any power is denied, then she gains some of that power back as a power gain passive. So even though she has buffs, she has been designed to cope today as a science character, which is very nice. And I'll tell you what, she isn't just great for science matchups. You can see that her damage output is just generally very high. She's finishing these fights with unstoppable, no unstoppable, class advantage or neutral class relationship, I think they're the only ones we've seen so far, in around 40 seconds. And her base damage with the Fury buffs is pretty huge. We often don't really get to see the maximum potential of her power stings because, as you can see against Rocket Raccoon, he's basically already dead. In fact, is he going to die here? Yeah, he's just going to die here. We didn't even get to see the power stings. Yes, I am playing this live. I'm not ignoring you. I know you like to see me look at you. See my beautiful face. Anyway, I'm not ignoring you, but we don't even get to see the power sting damage because her base damage and the big yellow numbers and the red numbers from the Furies are so huge. So even though the individual Furies aren't that big, they do stack up, and especially the Furies from the Awakened ability, if you have a high Sig Spider-Woman, if for whatever reason they fall off, then they will stay with you in some way, shape or form, and your damage will increase further. So up next is a Ghost Rider, and yeah, so people have used her Ensnare debuff that she gains on a timer to take even fights like Bullseye and shutting down his evade that way. So she will certainly be relevant offensively in Battlegrounds, but that's not to say that she's just a nuke. She may have, we're yet to see and get a better idea of just how powerful this is, but we will see maybe if she has some sort of defensive potential. As you can see there, on a timer, I placed a Fumble Severe debuff on the opponent, which means it cannot be purified, and that disables the Dexterity Mastery. And if that Fumble is on you, as a defender, she's more likely to throw off her SP1, which, as you can see, I'm about to throw it now, looks quite difficult to evade. So she's going to be at least chipping you down in the block as Ghost Rider goes down, and that means she's maybe a bit of a dual threat. Looks to be more offensively tuned, which is kind of what you'd expect from a champion like this. But yeah, you go, 40 seconds, offensively tuned, absolutely fine. She is taking every single one of these fights very, very well indeed. Up next is, I believe this is the Deadpool X-Force fight. And this is meant to be something resembling a mini-boss. It's supposed to be a little bit tougher than the other fights, so let's see how she gets on. Hammering in here, gaining my Furies, placing my Debilitates. I am running the Nick Fury and Quake synergy for a bit of a safety net, and that does give her a bit of an attack boost, but it's really nothing serious, right? She does not need 10% attack from Nick Fury whatsoever. And it does give her a personal synergy with Nick Fury. Whenever one of her Fury buffs is nullified, she places a Power Sting, one of the personal Power Stings, on the opponent. So if you are up against a big nullified champ, then it's no big deal because, well, that's going to hurt. There we go. Because they're going to die all the same. As you can see, that Power Sting damage against Deadpool X-Force, even though he is supposed to be a mini-boss, was very, very powerful, and he still goes down in less than 50 seconds. So, very, very strong there. So how do I think Spider-Woman will fare overall in the science class? Obviously, it's difficult to improve the science class by any meaningful way because it's just such a stacked class right now, and it's very difficult to make a meaningful impact there. But I think she'll be there just on account of her ability to take Enchantress alone, right? She takes Enchantress so smoothly. I might show Enchantress after this. Yeah, that might be a bit of a bonus clip. We'll see. Just on account of that, she'll be relevant. But as you can see, the damage itself is very, very impressive as I fail to land that intercept. So yeah, she'll be in the game, for sure. She's not going to be like Joaquin Phoenix, where... is that his name? Joaquin Phoenix? Joaquin Torres. Joaquin Phoenix? Where am I getting Phoenix from? I have no clue. Anyway, Joaquin Torres, where... yeah, heavy attack was nothing. I thought I'd show it. Where he's good, he has a great kit, but then it doesn't really go anywhere. No, she has a great kit, lots of utility, but then again, lots of damage, and she will make an impact on the science class, even if it is so stacked. So, not so bad there. Let's move on. We only have 2 fights remaining. Spider-Woman does not need to be awakened at all. The bulk of her damage is on her base kit, and all of her utility is present on her base kit. Yeah, as I said before, when one of her Fury buffs expires for whatever reason, there's a chance for it to be replaced by an identical passive, which is very nice, and there are some other boosts to her damage, but none of them are completely necessary. If you got the 7-star Spider-Woman tomorrow, I'd say well done. Oh, that was not supposed to make contact. But anyway, let's hammer on in here. I'd say, well done, you're in a great position anyway, and as you can see, even though I'm not technically maximizing these power stings, they deal more damage depending on how high the opponent's power bar is. You can see, she's still absolutely obliterating these opponents. Let's just bait the SP2 here. Come on, Cable, do it. There we go. It is recommended if you want to run the Ant-Man relic on your Spider-Woman, which I highly recommend, to apply the rune that gives you a taunt, because she doesn't have a taunt built into her base kit like Spider-Ham does on her SP1. But even then, when the AI was being quite stingy, do I heal up? Yeah, let's heal up just a little bit. Even when the AI was being quite stingy, I haven't had any issues with Spider-Woman placing her power stings and the opponent just not throwing a special. They last long enough that shouldn't really be a problem. But this Archangel here has quite a chunky health pool, so we may want to stack on another set of power stings before we let him throw a special. I am not all that good at dexing this guy's SP1. I would much rather bait him SP2s. Right, let's hammer back in here. Chuck off the SP2. Get that Retribution passive. I did heal up so I can take some blocked hits. I will say, her block proficiency, at least on this quest, has been beyond abysmal. So maybe, as a 7-star, considering the majority of her damage does come from power stings. We're not going to have power here. Going to have to bait out in the first SP2. I may recommend the block proficiency stat focus. As you can see, I'm just getting murked through the block. That is a little bit ridiculous, but let's chuck off another set of power stings, and hopefully, can we bait this out before the Retribution passive goes away? Yes, we can. Okay. And now we may have to start over. She does have something resembling a Battlegrounds related or targeted damage loop, so if it doesn't quite kill Archangel in one loop, then that's okay, because in the fights where you're going to want to use her, Enchantress or Man-Thing, she's going to be more than enough. Hopefully this crits. No, not quite. Let's bait out another heavy attack. Hammer back in here. Not going to have enough for an SP1, but we can just base out the SP2, and then we can go back in, and Archangel should be dead. Very nice. So yeah, Spider-Woman in 5.1.6, a very solid addition to the science class there. My overall thoughts are good. Potential to be a dual threat with lots of utility built into her kit. She is designed to be a hard counter to a champion that is plaguing the contest right now, Enchantress. And even though I am typically a critic of the sell the disease, sell the cure sort of thing, I think Enchantress hits pretty well as a defender, and Spider-Woman is a nice little addition. So yeah, I'll see if I want to put in a little bonus clip against Enchantress now. So I'll cut away to that. Okay, so as it turns out, if you try and take a 3-star character against a 7-star rank 3, even in practice mode, if you do not run very high despair, you're not going to be dealing an awful lot of damage. And again, the block penetration from a 7-star into a 3-star when you try and bait heavies from Enchantress is kind of disgusting. So no, I will not be showing the same footage that I did with the 3-star Bastion against Onslaught with Spider-Woman. That's not possible. But if you have made it this far, then thank you very much for watching. Leave your thoughts on Spider-Woman down below in the comment section, and bye-bye.